To Kill a Mockingbird, Part 2, Chapter 12. Jem was 12. He was getting so moody and hard to live with. After Mrs. Dubose had been dead for a couple weeks, he started changing and telling me what to do. Jem hollered, "It's time you started being a girl and acting right." I burst into tears and ran to Calpurnia. Calpurnia told me not to fret, that he was growing up. She even started calling him Mr. Jem, like he was a grown-up. I spent a lot of time with Calpurnia waiting for summer, when Dill would come to Maycomb. Summer came, and Dill had not come. Dill sent a letter saying that he had a new father and that he would have to stay in Meridian. The state legislature was called to an emergency session, and Atticus left us for 2 weeks. One Sunday, we went with Calpurnia to her church. She got us all clean and spent time going over our clothes. My dress had so much starch on it, it came up like a tent when I sat down. "It's like we're going to Mardi Gras," said Jem. "What's all this for, Cal?" "I don't want anybody saying I don't look after my children," she muttered. "Mr. Jem, you absolutely can't wear that tie with that suit. It's green." Calpurnia took us to First Purchase African M.E. Church. It was called First Purchase because it was paid for from the first earnings of freed slaves. Negroes worshipped in it on Sundays, and white men gambled in it on weekdays. As we entered the churchyard, the men stepped back and took off their hats, and the women crossed their arms at their wrists. They made a pathway for us. A woman's voice came from behind us. "What you up to, Miss Cal?" "What you want, Lula?" she asked in a tone I had never heard. "I want to know why you bringing them white children into a Negro church." "They's my company," said Calpurnia, and again I thought her voice was strange. She was talking like the rest of them. "Yeah, and I reckon you's company at the Finch's house during the week." "Don't you fret," Calpurnia whispered to me, and then said to Lula, "Stop right there, Negro." Lula stopped and said, "You ain't got no business bringing white children in here. They got their church, and we got ourn." "It's our church, ain't it, Miss Cal?" We told Calpurnia that we wanted to go home, and that we weren't welcome here. When I looked up, Calpurnia had amusement in her eyes, and others were coming towards us. Lula was gone, and we were surrounded by others. One of them, Zebo, said not to pay attention to Lula, and that they were glad to have us here. Inside, the church service was beginning. Reverend Sykes started by making some announcements. I noticed that there were no hymnals, and when I went to ask Calpurnia about it, she told me to be quiet. Reverend Sykes told us that they would be taking up a collection today, and for the next 3 Sundays for Tom Robinson to help out his wife Helen and family. Reverend Sykes said that we would begin services by singing hymn number 273. This was too much for me. "How are we going to sing if there ain't no hymn books?" Calpurnia smiled. She whispered, "Hush, baby. You'll see in a minute." Zebo cleared his throat and read in a voice like the rumble of a distant artillery. "There's a land beyond the river." Miraculously, on pitch, 100 voices sang out Zebo's words. The last syllable, held to a hum, was followed by Zebo saying, "That we call the sweet forever." Music again swelled around us. The last note lingered, and Zebo met it with the next line. Reverend Sykes went into his sermon, and after that came the collection. After the coffee can went around the church, Reverend Sykes emptied the coins into his hand and announced that it was not enough. He said that we must have $10. He had one of the church members close the doors until we had collected $10. We put in our dimes. Slowly and painfully, the $10 was collected. At the end of service, when we were all leaving, Reverend Sykes said to us, "We were especially glad to have y'all here." Said Reverend Sykes, "The church had no better friend than your daddy." My curiosity got to me, and I asked, "Why were y'all taking up for a collection for Tom Robinson's wife?" Didn't you hear why? Asked Reverend Sykes. Helen's got 3 little ones and she can't go out to work. Why can't she take him with her, Reverend? I asked. Calpurnia put her hand on my shoulder. On the way home, I asked Cal why no one would hire Helen. She told us that it's because of what folks say Tom's done. I don't know what Tom had done, so I asked. Cal cited, old Mr. Bob Yule accused him of raping his girl and had him arrested and put in jail. Mr. Yule? I thought and remembered what Atticus had said, that they were absolute trash, and I'd never heard Atticus talk about anyone like that before. Cal said that I'd have to ask Atticus the questions about this. Calpurnia did explain why they sang the hymns the way they did. It's called linen, and it's been done like that for as long as she can remember. Jem thought it would be a good idea to take up a collection to get some hymn books. Cal said it would do no good since she only knows about 4 people who can read. Zebo, who was Calpurnia's oldest son, was taught by her, and Cal was taught by Miss Maudie's aunt, old Miss Buford. Another thing I was curious about and had to ask Cal was the way that she talked around the other colored folks. Cal, I asked, why you talk in Negro talk to your folks when you know it's not right? Well, in the first place, I'm black. That doesn't mean you have to talk that way when you know better, said Jem. It's right hard to say, she said. Suppose you and Scout talked colored folk talk at home. It'd be out of place, wouldn't it? Now, if I talked white folks talk at church with my neighbors, they'd think I was putting on airs to beat Moses. But, Cal, you know better, I said. It's not necessary to tell all you know. It's not ladylike. And in the second place, folks don't like to have somebody around knowing more than they do. It aggravates them. You're not going to change them by talking right. They've got to want to learn for themselves. And when they don't, there's nothing you can do but keep your mouth shut or talk their language. As we approached the house, Jem told me to look on the porch. I looked and saw Aunt Alexandra sitting on a rocking chair.